Now, once we've figured out how the from per semester to per unit calculation is done, remember that we've also changed your incentive structure. So what we expect is that you will respond to those incentives and your behavior will change. So we expect, first of all, that you'll spread workloads better. So previously, if you finished in 7 semesters, you paid more. If you finished in 8, you paid, if you finished in 7 semesters, you paid less. In 8, you paid more. And you'd have to pay extra for summers. Now to finish in 7 semesters, you pay 130 times the unit fee. And in 8 semesters, you pay 130 times the unit fee. And if you want to enroll in less units, say 12 or 14 or 15, 16, whatever, during a regular semester and take the summer, well, guess what? You still pay 130 times the unit fee. Now, this isn't obviously going to be exact because it might be that you have a registration fee and things like this, and that's something that you can take up with the administration, as you should. But broadly speaking, I think you've got a pretty sort of good structure now, which will ensure that you're sort of taking your time to study. So there are some incentives still to speed up. So still some incentives to finish in 7 semesters versus 8, but they start becoming minor for most people. The first is that you might start your career 5 months early. Honestly, when you're my age, about double what you are now, the 5 months at the time of graduation really doesn't matter, and it's always been my advice to students to take as much time to finish as you need, and really, instead of prioritizing speed, prioritize getting the best GPA you can. That will open up much more opportunities, and when you're again my age, you'll thank me for making you focus on your GPAs. So in your current incentive structure, this was a stupid idea because it was important for you to finish in 7 semesters if you could. So you had that incentive to speed up. Now you don't, right? And so you can really start spreading workloads better, not just into that 8th semester, but also importantly into summers. Back in my day when we had the per unit structure, I don't know why it was changed, I think it was a mistake. There was a lot of enrollment during summers. The only reason people didn't take summers is because they wanted a longer break. But if you wanted to improve your GPA, you did take summer and cover units. And summer was almost a full, not quite a full, but quite a substantial attendance semester. Unlike now, where you have very low enrollment for very good reasons. The second thing is that and this is where it becomes important, is that hotel residents would obviously pay less on hostel fees if they're finishing quicker than if they're finishing later. And so our move to making you slow down your education has an impact on hostel residents. But now LUMS can fix this, right? If you look at hostel fees, again, as with the broader operations of the university, hostel fees cover both fixed costs, for example, yearly upkeep and staff salaries, and some operational costs, in particular your energy costs and water and what have you. Charging the 8th semester at the existing rate will be an overcharge because we're charging you again for fixed costs which we've already covered in the 7.5 semesters or whatever our calculation is. So students' total hostel fees should only go up by the extent of our incremental cost of operating the hostels longer every year. And the university needs to sort of think about how to account for this, ideally, and I hope they do. The bottom line is we're trying to create less stress and better learning for you, and not only should this manifest in better learning outcomes for you guys. Talk to my colleagues and we're always complaining about how learning at LUMS has actually decreased over time. But also for you guys immediately, it should hopefully create less stress and improve mental health. Paradoxically, we've probably created more stress for you at the moment, but we're convinced, most of us, that this is the way to go. Now, we can think about, sorry for the wonky appearance of these bullet points. At the moment, what we're doing is you can take additional courses such as courses above graduation requirements and repeated courses and not pay extra. And what we're trying to do is move to a system where people who do take additional courses and thus create those costs, for example, of offering more courses at a certain time, have to pay for those additional costs. Again, previously, remember again, I keep repeating myself, remember that LUMS wants to break even at the end of the day. So when you create these additional costs for us by taking additional courses, for example, by repeating courses more than necessary or taking courses beyond graduation requirements, what that does is that it makes the LUMS financial managers take our total cost at the end of the year and put that into the per semester fees. So even people who are not doing these things, who are not taking courses above graduation requirements or repeating their courses much, actually paying the same amount as others. And so now we are trying to move to a system where those who take these additional courses are the ones who pay for the additional cost. Now, this is good. And even if we have to create a financial aid, and come back to that, this is a good thing because you have to now really consider the benefits of taking these actions more carefully, right? You can't be trigger happy with these decisions, which is, I mean, it's a great thing for you to get the best education you can at LUMS, repeat courses as much as you want, take courses beyond graduation requirements. That's great. It serves our learning mission. But then you should be paying for them, because if you don't pay for them, then everyone else is paying for your education, which means that we're not sort of, A, it's unfair, and B, it makes you trigger happy with these actions. Now, this is important. If students start taking less credits to graduate because additional charges being levied on your additional actions or your additional courses leads to you guys doing less of these things, then LUMS's costs must fall, right? So total costs will fall, and again, if LUMS sticks to its not-for-profit mission, it must sort of result in an inflation-adjusted decrease in your tuition rate. So it might be a nominal or in terms of money an increase, but in terms of what that money is getting on the real value of that money this year, hopefully it will fall. Again, this is something for you to monitor, and a lot of the things where you think that LUMS is saving money, I'll come to in a future section on what you need to be thinking about in this. So there were equity issues before, right? Those not taking additional courses were paying part of the additional costs, but there are also equity issues now, which is, or inequality issues now rather, which are that the access to additional courses is now going to be mediated by your financial ability, or your sort of how likely you are to repeat a course and how likely you are to take courses beyond 130 will depend on your financial ability. So what LUMS must do as a not-for-profit is to pass savings from changes in student behaviors that I just talked about, that is fewer enrollments in additional courses, back to students in lower tuition hikes. Not doing this is not really an option, right? That goes against our public commitment to being a non-profit. And what LUMS should do, in my view, is extend financial aid to some, maybe 1 or 2 repeated courses, not endlessly, and extend financial aid to 1 to 3 units above 130. Now, remember that if you're going to extend this financial aid, it might mean that to some degree other students are cross-subsidizing this behavior. But having a little bit of it might be a nice way to transition to a system where you're more accepting of this. I would do this with an expiry date. So I would do this for 1 or 2 years, but not endlessly, for the same reasons why we moved to this system in the first place. So that's the bulk of what I wanted to say about per semester to per unit.